Hi everyone, my name is Eric and I'm the developer of an upcoming action platforming game called GB Rober, which is a game about shooting your bosses, destroying your landlords and generally fighting for a better world. The game is about to come out like in a few months, but there's still like some smaller work left to do. And I thought in order to give people a better impression of the state of the game's development and like also like kind of give more insight of the process of like actually releasing a game on Steam and what you have to like keep in mind and all that stuff, or more like what I have to keep in mind when I'm doing this, because everyone kind of makes games differently, I think. I thought, why not try and do like hopefully weekly update videos about like what I did the previous week, how things went, and like what I'm planning to do in the upcoming week, and like talk a little bit about my, I guess, creative process. So let's get going and see what we can come up with, or more or less what I did the previous week and what I plan on doing the next upcoming week. So in the previous week, I added two things more or less. Like I had a bunch of other stuff to do, so there wasn't that much time to actually work on GB Rober itself. Also because in the previous weeks, like since I launched the Steam page on June 1st, I mostly spent a lot of time like building marketing assets and all that kind of stuff, and like trying to like build some kind of habits, and like putting the game out there, trying to be as expressive as I can about this, because it's kind of hard for me to do and it's something I have to really practice. So that's what I spent most of my time in the previous week with. Also last week the Steam Summer Sale started and I had to do like some preparation work for that, like for my other commercial game, Splinter Zone, which is currently 50% off on Steam, and I would very much like for people to check it out and maybe buy it, because it's only around €2 or $3 or whatever on Steam, which is preposterously cheap, and the game is kind of good and decent and nice. And I would really like for it to get a few more user reviews so that I might get a positive score on Steam and get more visibility, but that's like besides the point. So what did I do on GB Rober last week? It was mostly work where I like got this weird moment where I like suddenly realized, wait a second, maybe it's more interesting when I add like this and that to the game. Maybe this like adds something more interesting to it. And the first idea that I had was earlier last week, was thinking about a way to make dodging enemy attacks more interesting. So far, so the game has like a dash mechanic that you can see in this GIF, where you can dash through projectiles and also through enemies, and you're invincible during that dash, so you can avoid attacks this way, you can dodge enemies this way, and use it as a way to like move about the stage or overall. And one thing I thought about recently was, and this is also something I had in mind for my upcoming game even more, is finding ways to make engaging with attacks a bit more interesting. So instead of just you having like to dodge through an attack and that's it, I added a mechanic. This is like basically a perfect dodge mechanic, you can call it like that, where if you dodge through an attack within the first within 5 frames before it hitting you, basically, you'll get a bunch of extra effects. So first of all, there's like a short like pause when you dodge the projectile. There's like an additional particle effect, but like on a mechanical level, there are now more like benefits for you doing that. You get a small health like bonus, so you get healed a tiny bit, not by a lot, but it can add up over time. Your energy meter, which is your primary source of healing and also bonus damage in the game, also charges up through that. The energy meter, aside from that, only charges up through either getting hit by enemies or destroying enemies. Your special weapon ammunition regenerates a tiny bit, which is especially useful during boss fights, where you can use their specific weakness weapon and then recharge your ammunition like during the fight, and then keep the fight more going and have like less of a downtime in between while you're waiting for ammunition to regenerate normally. And you also get a very short damage bonus, basically for roughly 1 second after you finished your dash maneuver and executed a perfect dodge. You'll get roughly like like from your normal attack, you get like you do double damage. Basically, you do 1 point of damage more after executing a perfect dodge. So there are like multiple layers to this being like beneficial for you, and like in that way, kind of like making it so that people could be more inclined to take greater risks, because again, you have 5 frames in which you can execute that perfect dodge, and when you like mistime it, you probably end up getting hit by an attack, and enemies do kind of a lot of damage in this game. So you have to kind of gauge whether or not how deep you want to engage with this. It's definitely something that I think could be interesting or should be interesting for people who really want to push themselves and really want to try to get like play as optimally and as best as they possibly can, because again, the added benefits like do give you a lot more resources and a lot more ways to get through the game in an interesting and quick fashion. So I think this is like kind of like a nice thing. I played through the game like once after that, and it's really some of the boss fights especially get much more interesting when you try to go for these things, and I think it's a nice addition to this. And also, like, again, it's like it adds another layer of potential or like possible like expression for players. And I think for games like this is always important to have, so that like there are different ways in which on different states in which people can engage with what you had. So this was the first part that I added. The second part I added over the like last weekend, which was like mostly cosmetic or like overall cosmetic. You can also see the live stream where I added this stuff as an archive on this YouTube channel if you want to watch me like spend 2 hours like working on the animation frames and doing some other stuff, and also like taking a very short look at Celeste and realizing, oh my god, I haven't done nearly enough with the jumping animations to make them feel interesting and look interesting. So if you want to check that out, you can do that as well. But here's like the very short gist of it. So far, like before, like last weekend, the jumping animation in GB Rover was only 2 frames. 1 frame when you jump like upwards, and 1 frame when you fall down. And that's kind of okay for a game like this. But I was like thinking about maybe if I add like more in between states between like jumping up and jumping down, it's much better like to communicate a bit more weight to the character and like to the like game feel and all that. So I did that, tried that out, and like it looked nice and felt nice, and then I realized, wait a second, what if I add some more particle effects when you jump and when you land? And that's like these small like smoke particles that come up when you jump and when you land. The landing particles though only appear when you like have like a fairly high vertical speed, so that like it's not like something that happens on like every small hop, but more like on like more larger jumps. Again, trying to communicate the momentum that your character has, trying to communicate more the weight that the character has, and it's very interesting, and it's always surprising every time when I like build more stuff like this in my games, is how much just adding a few more particle effects or adding a few more frames of animations changes the way a character feels to play. Like you like this again, it's like very subjective as always, and especially if you haven't played the game before, and then like in an earlier state or whatever, it might be very hard, but like there is much more of a connection between like pressing the button and seeing the action. Like everything feels less stiff to me, again, despite the physics not really having changed, but more like the way it's displayed on the screen, and like the connection between you like pressing a button and you seeing the consequences of your actions on the screen. So that was kind of interesting, and I'm really glad that I did that. It's not planned that that I'm going to add more of this to the game, because again, like even this thing was like more of a, I don't know what to do with myself, but I have this idea, and why not just try it and see how it goes, and if I don't like it, I'll just like cut it from the game again. It's like, and I haven't lost anything. So this is like a lot of stuff that I do when like a game goes towards like getting finished. I did the same with Splinter Zone, where like I had time on my hands, didn't know what to do, and like thought about, oh, why don't I just add these more frames of animation to this, or this like very like minute detail to this one animation, just to make it a bit more interesting and communicate a bit more stuff. And it always like it adds a lot to the game, and again, if it doesn't add a lot, you can always remove it, and it's kind of a nice thing and a nice way to like keep working on a game despite it like almost or basically being done. And it's an interesting and a nice thing, and I'm very glad that I did it. But again, it's not that I have planned like on like that I have a giant list of stuff that I want to add. If I can think of something, and it like if it feels nice, I'll try it out, and if I can think of a way of implementing it without like spending days building something new or whatever, I try it out and see if it works, and if it doesn't, I'll remove it, and if it works, I'll just keep it in there. But overall, I'm like generally pretty happy. Like the game felt really nice to play to begin with. Now it's like the niceness has increased, so that's a cool thing, I guess. So that's what I mostly did last week. Again, I spent the most of June building out marketing assets and trying to like learn expressive habits, so to speak. And it's been interesting, but I kind of want to spend the next few weeks trying to finish the stuff in the game that I still need to do for it to like be able to be released on Steam. There's still something left to do, and I'd like to get it out of the way within the next few weeks. It's not that much, but it still works. So this is what I have planned for the upcoming week, to talk a little bit about that. So I did submit GB Rover to Steam, like a build of GB Rover to Steam way back when I think in early May or whatever. But back then it got rejected by Steam because I said that the game has achievements when back then the game didn't have achievements. So Steam said, nope, you can't release this on Steam, which is fair. But yeah, so I added like this is like planned for like the next week, that there will be achievements in the game. I have to read myself up until into the documentation again and see how it goes. But that's planned. I have a bunch of interesting achievements, so to speak. I personally I don't like achievements, to be like very, very honest. I really don't like them. I think it's like it just adds or like piles on like unnecessary gamification stuff on something that is already a game, so to speak. So there are already things that like there's already an intrinsic challenge to all of this. Like for me there isn't really a need to like add extra busy work to people just to give them a reason like to keep playing something. But at the same time, me and other people are different, and so there are reasons or there are ways in which you can add achievements to this, which might be interesting. And my main ideas are like twofold. One, add achievements to the game that communicate more of the game's point a little bit more. And the other like kind of achievement is add really preposterous challenge achievements that are kind of hard to get and kind of hard to do, but like if someone is really into completing games, well, here they have something that is really challenging them in this regard. So of course my notebook is way back there, so I can't really show it right now because I don't want to edit this video. Anyway, what I added, or like the kind of achievements that I'm going to put in there is like, for example, what I want to try at least is add an achievement that you only get when you never run to the right. So you never take a step to the right, something that like people on the left like politically should do. The game, like, again, I have to see how it works, but the idea is like you can only progress through the game when you're not on the ground. If you're on the ground, you're never supposed to take a single step to the right. You can move freely to the left, you can jump to the right, you can use your dash maneuvers and all that, but you can never walk to the right. I have to see if it's possible on the technical level and if it's like achievable to some degree. But if it is, I'll put it in there, and like also like a bunch of like time attack things and other kinds of achievements like that. That's like one way of doing, like one I wanted to add. The other part is like very specifically tied to the game's intro scene, where like you're like basically working in a factory and like you have to shoot some like containers and coins fell out of them, and there are like some like I'll add some achievements to that are like around how many coins you earn versus how many coins your boss is going to earn off of your work, and like again trying to communicate a little bit how capitalism is fucked up and all that, and like doing that like through this game and through achievements which in of itself are kind of like weird ideas of like scientific management, and also like what gamification oftentimes is like in industry and all that is like weird ways of like how like scientific management or Taylorism has been used like in ways of like to incentivize workers to be more productive in the workplace and to like be more in competition with one another than instead of like working together to like in solidarity and whatever. So that's kind of like what I want to add. Again, I have to see how well these work with like technical implementation, but as like in general, if I can manage to get them in there and they work, I'll probably keep them in there even though they might be nearly impossible. Again, mostly because it's very much like most of the achievements in the game will be very much geared towards people that really like doing preposterous stuff in games, because for some reason it like brings them enjoyment. So I really want to push that. But as like always with games, for me, it's same with Splinter Zone. There will always be ways to manipulate the game in a way that what seems like ridiculous and overly difficult doesn't have to be if you don't want it to. So there will be ways to circumvent some of this stuff, but that's like mostly something that I want to figure out this week, so that I can then submit the game to Steam again and have basically everything set for the game to release whenever I want it to release, which is in a few months still, but I kind of want to have everything ready so that I don't have to worry about fixing all of this stuff, I don't know, like 2 to 3 weeks before I want to actually release the game. I kind of want to have everything set up and done and be ready now so that I can concentrate on like getting like trying to market the game a bit more and a bit better. So that's one part. The other part that I want to do or have to do this week is finish GB Rober's pitch deck, which is again very much like a business bullshit thing that I have to do, but that is kind of important and actually is also really helping me in like figuring out how I want to talk about this game. So it's not like a complete like waste of time or whatever. It's like actually kind of like a good way for me to practice some of this stuff and practice thinking about the game in ways like that make it sound more interesting to other people that are not me. So that's kind of like an important thing here and an important part of this. I'm also thinking about maybe after I finished it, like and practice it a little bit, to just record a video of me doing like going through the pitch deck and like doing actually a pitch and doing it as a video, just again to show it like what I had in mind or like what I was thinking about when I made this, and like to have it out there for people to look at it, and because maybe it's interesting to some, I don't know, but that's the idea. That's probably going to take up a lot of my time this week because as you might see, I tend to ramble a lot and things get like very very quickly out of like get overly long and winding, and I have to prepare stuff so that this doesn't happen, and I have to practice this. I can do this, but it takes time for me to get in the right state, and that's like a thing with ADHD and all that. My mind tends to wander and like walk like different paths just because there seems to be an interesting idea at one end, which is nice sometimes, but also like not very helpful when you have like a 10-minute time slot to do a presentation and you have basically talk for like double that time at least. Looking at the recording that is now at 20 minutes. Anyway, so that's like those are the main tasks. The other part, or like the other thing I might do this week if I get the time or have the time to get around to it, is implement some of the other feedback that that Steam sent to me, like when I submitted the build for GB Rover, which is mostly like tiny stuff that is like on a very technical level, like having the game pause when you unplug the controller and all that stuff, which I haven't done because this is like stuff that I really never think about, but is probably somehow maybe important to do. So that's like something that I still have to do. And this is like mostly like small stuff. This isn't something which would make the game like be ineligible to be launched on Steam, but it's something that might be a good thing to have implemented because it's like for the overall user experience side to be a good idea. But that's like mostly if I have the time to do it, I'll do it, and if I don't find the time this week, I'll do it next week. But the achievements are like the most important part right now, because this is what currently blocks GB Rover being accepted on Steam, like the build of GB Rover being accepted on Steam. And once I have this one implemented, I can then go on and work on the other stuff and like finish up like some of the other minute elements of the game. I still want to redesign one of the boss fights and all that, and I also then want to like see and test how the game actually runs on Steam, and if there's something else I still have to figure out and I still have to fix and all that. So those are all reasons why I want to do this week preferably, and then like submit a build, hope that it gets accepted this time, and then like work on the other stuff and like finish everything up and like make it nice and good to play. Which it is already, but you can like there's always so much more you can improve. As I said, like I was like very like I was playing Celeste for like about a minute on the stream, like just like on my Switch, like messing around a little bit, just realizing how much there still is for me to like look for and maybe improve the way the game feels to play, even though like Celeste and GB Rover are completely different games, but like there's still like a lot you can take away from it in terms of like player feedback and all that, and I really want to try and see what else is there is for me to do, but that's just an aside. Anyway, those are like kind of the things that I want to do this week. I hope I get around to it. We'll have to see. I got my first vaccination shot today. So far I don't feel terrible, but usually the terrible feeling comes after the second one, which isn't until August. So I think I'll be good for this week, but who knows. I also have like a bunch of appointments that I have to do this week, but that's like normal life stuff, I guess. So I'll try my best to do the things that I want to do this week. I'm fairly optimistic that I can do this. And then we'll see how it goes, and I'll try to do another one of these videos next week talking about the process and all that. And hopefully maybe at some point I'll get them down to under 15 minutes maybe. Who knows? Anyway, if you're interested in learning more about GB Rover and all of this interesting and cool stuff, there are several things you can do. First of all, it would be incredibly cool if you could wishlist GB Rover on Steam. That's like one of the first things. If you really want to be cool and like extra productive or whatever with this, you can also follow GB Rover on Steam, which like basically gives it a more prominent spot in your like update whatever thing, where you see more news when I post them. Should I post them? So you'll get notified when the game's available, when it's on sale, when there's like a special update or whatever. So that's like one of the things you can do, and I'd really be happy if you could wishlist it. The wishlisting has been a bit slow the last 2 weeks, and it is what it is. But yeah, if you can wishlist, if you're interested in all that, please do that. Also, if you want to have more updates in general, you can follow @Mokograd on Twitter, twitter.com/Mokograd. This is like basically the video games account, not my personal account, because I complain quite a lot on my personal account. But if you just want to see the video game stuff or what I'm working on and like announcement and all that, you can follow that account, and there you can see everything else. If you want, you can also subscribe to the email newsletter that I set up at tinyletter.com/mokograd, which is like, again, you'll get more updates and announcement, more like larger announcements. I don't use it all that often, but if there's like something larger to announce and all that, I'll use that as well. And obviously you can also subscribe to this channel, because I'll try and do my best to upload more stuff to this, and like in general trying to be more upfront and outgoing about the process of making games and talking about my thought processes and all that, and like giving people some kind of insight in how all of this goes and what I'm thinking about all of this stuff. So if that's interesting for you in any ways, these are the things you can do. There are also going to be links in the video descriptions below for you to click on and be instantly transported to whatever place you want to be, at least if it's part of this. Anyway, that's been it. I hope you have a nice week. I'm going to have a nice week. It's fairly hot and nice outside again, because it's summer, I guess. But yeah, I'll get in touch, be in touch probably next week. Hope you have a nice week, and I'll see you soon. Bye.